My parents asked me to change my family name to pursue my career, but now they're begging me to go back because with another name, people don't believe I'm part of the family. 12 years ago, I moved from my hometown after my parents kicked me out. They were very upset with me because I refused to continue working for the family business, and I wanted to make my own way. My reasons were very simple. That business was going to be taken over by my brother, the golden son, after my dad retired. So I had no interest in working on something that was never going to be mine. Besides, I was tired of living with my family and doing everything together. I was 24 at the time, and when I told my parents about my decision, they were furious. They told me they'd cut me off completely if I did this because they wanted their children to continue the family legacy and carry on the business. I don't understand how I was going to run the business if I wasn't even going to be in charge. I was always going to be in the passenger seat, and my brother was going to get all the credit for running the company. I wasn't interested in that life. I wanted to do something for myself. So, despite all his protests, I decided to leave. I knew perfectly well that if I really left, they'd never speak to me again because they were so inflexible and strict. My grandparents were the same with my dad, and he actually thanked them for it. So I knew he'd act the same way. I wasn't surprised when I left. I was told I should drop the family name because I was bringing shame on everyone, apparently. And I actually did, because by then I was already pretty frustrated with the way I was being treated. They acted as if my decision to leave was something very personal, when in reality it wasn't. It was just a professional decision, and they should have been able to respect it. They would have respected it if they were normal people, but they are anything but normal, and since then, we haven't spoken. It's been 12 years, and we've had no contact. Even when we see each other at family events, they make sure to ignore me, as if that would make me feel really bad about myself. It hasn't. It just makes me feel relieved to no longer be part of that side of the family, and to no longer have that pressure on me. I grew up that way, and it wasn't very pleasant. Now, for the past 12 years, I've been free to do what I want with my life, and it's been a huge relief. I've been very successful in my life too. In the past 10 years, I've accomplished a lot. For the first 2 years after leaving my dad's company, I worked with a friend at another company to gain some experience, because before that I had only worked for my father. When we thought we had learned enough, we decided to start our own company, and by the grace of God, in the last 10 years, we've really taken off in terms of business and popularity. We run a toy company together, and we're doing extremely well, and we've been doing so for many years. It's been great, and I'm very happy I made this decision for myself. Recently, in the last few months, our company started doing so, and I was interviewed by a magazine for my entrepreneurial skills, along with my friend, and many people read that magazine. So naturally, it reached my family as well, and that's when they finally decided to contact me and tell me they were ready to accept me back into the family, and that they were very proud of me. Unfortunately, it's now been 12 years, and I don't want anything to do with them. They contacted me a few days ago and told me they wanted to see me, and that they wanted me to resume the family name, since I dropped it all those years and had been using another name of my own choosing. But now I needed to accept my identity because they were ready to accept me back into their lives. That's what they said in their email, and they asked for my address and phone number so they could contact me and speak with me in person. But I responded to their email and told them very clearly that I didn't think any of that was necessary. I didn't want them back in my life, and if it had taken them 12 years of my success to realize I truly deserved to be part of their family, then I don't think they really love me at all. What they really want is to be associated with my success. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to allow that to happen because they have nothing to do with it. It's all my fault, not theirs. And of course, that really offended them. So they decided to ask several of our relatives for my contact information, and somehow, they got it. I'd put a lot of effort into changing my entire identity, moving quite far away from them, and making sure they didn't know anything about me for many years. But all of that was in vain just because someone told them everything about me. And now, a few days ago, they showed up at my door demanding a reconciliation. That got pretty ugly because I told them I didn't want to talk to them, and that if they didn't leave, I would call the police. But of course, they didn't leave. So I did exactly what I said I would do. Nothing more, nothing less. They were still standing outside my door, banging on it, and making a scene. So I got frustrated and decided to call the police. And then it was pretty bad, but they dragged them away. No charges were filed or anything, but it was still humiliating. They decided to tell the whole family about this, and now people are upset because they think I overreacted. It's very frustrating because I was living my life away from all of them, only for them to come back and torment me. It seems like changing my address and phone number hasn't helped, because they've come back into my life with very little effort. My grandparents, who were also very strict, thought they were doing my dad a favor by raising him, and that he owed them his life for the minimal amount they'd done for him. My dad wanted to be a musician, and he actually would have been quite good at it because he still plays occasionally. He's a brilliant guitarist, and as far as I know, he could also play the piano beautifully. Yes, he may not have been extremely successful, or maybe he was, but we'll never know because he never had the chance to follow that dream. My grandparents, his parents, made it clear to him that he had to do something respectable with his life. And after much fighting, my grandparents told him he could do what they told him, or he could leave the family and never return. My dad opted for the first option. He decided to go to business school, earn a degree, and start his own company. He thanks his parents for being strict with him, because otherwise, he believes he would never have been able to achieve anything in life and would still struggle to make ends meet. And that's good for him, I suppose, but I don't think that was the healthiest way for him to view life. To be honest, he's never had a say in anything he's done in his life, and he's always blindly followed his parents and their instructions. His career choice was decided by them. Even my mother was a partner chosen by my grandparents, being the daughter of one of their friends, because they thought she would be a good fit for the family. They started trying to have children when my grandparents told them to, and they even had me because my grandparents said it would be nice to have 2 children so my brother wouldn't feel lonely. My mother's parents were also somewhat controlling and orthodox, but not as much as my paternal grandparents. I never got along with any of them, so it was very difficult for me to understand why my parents were so grateful to them for everything. Because, in my opinion, it was a stifling way to live. Their life may have turned out well, but none of their decisions were truly their own, and I actually think that's pretty sad. Now, a lot of people ask me why I was so sure the company was going to be my brother's and not mine, even if I stayed. And it's because I was literally told that, since my brother was the oldest, he would eventually inherit the company, and whenever he decided to retire or take some time off, I'd be next in line. But other than that, he would definitely be the first priority to take over the company after my retirement. And in fact, they were grooming him to eventually take over, while I was merely his right-hand man. My brother and I already had plenty of ego clashes, because I honestly felt he was the golden child of the family. And to be honest, I'm pretty sure he was, even though my parents insisted otherwise. He's 6 years older than me, and he's the exact kind of son my parents wanted, one who would do everything they asked of him. They wanted him to marry one of his business partner's daughters at 23, and he did. Then they wanted him to have children within 2 years of his marriage, and he did that too. And on top of that, they demanded that he continue living with them. And he did so, quite happily. He's a carbon copy of my father. They had the same expectations for me too. And that's what I was mentioning at the beginning of my original post, about living together constantly and doing everything they wanted me to do. It's true that we have a fairly large house, which was built with the intention of being a home for our respective families as well, but I didn't want that for myself. I wanted to live my life my way, and growing up in my own home, that was one of the luxuries we were never allowed to have. So I think I really had no choice but to leave everything behind and start over because, honestly, my parents would never have left me alone if I had stayed with them. I've always had a lot of issues with my family. I think I can safely say I'm the black sheep of the family. So, even though it was somewhat painful, I managed to put them behind me. And even recently, calling the police wasn't a big dilemma for me. The only reason I've been questioning my decision is because of the criticism I've received from the rest of the family. And for those who said I should change my phone number, that's easier said than done. Plus, they haven't read anything I've written. That's what I did this time. My parents didn't have my new number, and it was very easy for them to get it. And doing so is quite complicated for me, because I certainly have many professional contacts who call me all the time, and I'd have to inform them one by one. It would be a lot of work to do, only for my parents to have to get it again. It's not that difficult to do these days, especially for my parents. There's also no such thing as a restraining order. You can't put one in place just because someone came to your house. Update 1. So I decided to talk to a couple of people who have been criticizing me for calling the police on my parents. Most of the family has stayed away from this whole mess, but there were a lot of relatives who got involved in my business. So they contacted me, sent me messages telling me I was wrong and that I owe them an apology, things like that. It's clear these relatives share the same ideas as my parents, but to be honest, I'm not ready to forgive them or have a relationship with them, and I don't think I ever will be. The idea of returning to that family suffocates me, And this time away from them has given me perspective. On the one hand, I know I can live without them, and on the other, I prefer it that way. I get no benefit from returning to them, while they have so much to gain. While I have to put up with my golden brother again and all the crap that comes with this family, they get my achievements to display like hunting trophies. Nothing more. Let's also not forget that it took them 12 years to try to talk to me, even though they could have done it much sooner if they had really wanted to. But they only wanted to do it now because I'm successful, they've heard about it, and they want to be associated with it. So I don't understand why I'm expected to forgive them for that. I contacted those relatives who were interfering in my affairs for no reason, and they tried to make it seem like I was the bad guy for calling the police, even though I had clearly told them that was exactly what I was going to do. I don't know what they expected. But anyway, I tried to be very polite and sent the same message to all of them, explaining everything I just mentioned. I think I was perfectly rational and reasonable. I even mentioned the fact that I could understand why they felt a certain way, because they were following my parents' narrative. Naturally, they were taking their version of events, which my parents wanted them to believe. And that way, of course, they were going to think I was the bad guy because they didn't even know my side of the story. But now that they knew it, they had to decide for themselves which side they wanted to take. I also ended the message by saying that I would totally understand if they decided to side with my parents on this, but if they did, I would really appreciate it if they didn't go out of their way to drag me into it, because I really want to stay away from them. I don't want any drama. I think people will understand that I don't want any drama, because it's my parents who are telling them all this. I haven't talked about this with anyone. Many people didn't respond at all, and some did. They just wanted to argue with me and create drama out of nothing. They knew perfectly well I was pretty upset about all this, and they decided to take advantage of that. These people started telling me that my parents were very upset, but that I owe them my life because I was raised by them. That I can't behave this way toward them because it's being indecent and selfish. I don't understand why they have such strong opinions about this, considering they're not even directly involved in it. But anyway, the people who responded made it very clear they just wanted to fight me, and I didn't respond at all because I didn't think it was worth it. After all, this is between my parents and me. They're not involved, so I don't have to act like I owe them an explanation. These people have only done the bare minimum for me as a family. They've invited me to events, but that's about it. When I first left my parents, no one helped me. No one looked out for me, and I was alone. Back then, no one cared about any of this. No one interfered in a situation that didn't concern them at all. But now, just because they think they have an opportunity to join in, their sole purpose is to upset me and nothing more. I don't even understand why I was so upset by these people's opinions in the first place. And if I hadn't called the police, they would have just kept bothering me until they got what they wanted. And that's not going to happen. I don't want to have anything to do with them. Not now, not ever. I've been hurt enough. If my parents were reasonable, rational people, I might have even considered mending my relationship with them. But they're obviously not that kind of people. If they were, their first instinct wouldn't have been to go around telling people what happened with the police and all that, and trying to make me look like the bad guy just so I'd feel guilty and talk to them. Anyway, that's all for now. I'll keep you updated on what happens next, because I'm pretty sure there's more to come after this. Update 2. 11 days after my last update today, since my parents weren't willing to show up directly, or were afraid, they sent my brother to do the dirty work. It was a terrible plan because if I didn't want to see them, I certainly didn't want to see my brother. They know I don't get along with my brother, and I don't even like him very much. It's no secret. Anyway, he showed up with his wife, and the two of them were trying to be polite, even when I tried to kick them out. I told them the same thing. Even if they stood outside my door for the rest of the afternoon, I'd just call the police, and they'd be treated the same way my parents were. After all, they're part of the same family, and I'd made it clear I wanted nothing to do with them. But my brother told me I should open the door and let him in, at least to talk to me. He just wanted to have a civil conversation about what was going on. After a while, it became clear he wasn't going to leave without talking to me. So I decided to let him in, but I did it more out of curiosity than anything else, because I really wanted to know what he had to say about all this. I knew my parents had sent him, that was obvious. But still, I wanted to see what would happen, so I let them in after about 20 minutes. Once inside, my sister-in-law stayed quiet while my brother did all the talking. I think she was just there for moral support or whatever, but I'm thankful she was there because otherwise, it would have been pretty awkward and everything would have been even uglier than it was. Anyway, once my brother was inside, he started telling me that our parents were very upset with my behavior, especially since they'd shown up to try to fix our relationship. And instead of appreciating that, he called the police. He said they were very discouraged by my coldness. He told me they were willing to work things out now, but that I had to be the one to initiate the process because they'd already tried, and I'd rejected them rather brutally. He told me that our parents apparently regretted their decision and missed me a lot during these 12 years, but they were always afraid to contact me, which is why they never did. And I'd proven them right by behaving the way I did recently. At that point, as he was talking about how miserable our parents had been for the past 12 years, I had to interrupt him because I didn't believe him one bit. I told him again that it was very clear that it wouldn't have been that difficult for them to contact me and find out where I was if they really wanted to talk to me. If they had done it at the beginning, maybe I would have really appreciated it and responded more positively. But the timing of all this is what really seems suspicious to me. So how did they expect me to think they weren't after me just because I'm successful now, and they wanted to associate themselves with that? And I told my brother that I could totally understand him being here just to speak on behalf of my parents. He had nothing original to say, and he wanted to do the same thing everyone else had tried to do, make them look like the victims, and me like a spoiled, ungrateful child. Unfortunately, I wasn't going to let him push that narrative, especially not with me. I told him I'd heard him, and now he needed to leave. That's when he lost his cool. He kicked one of my pieces of furniture and told me he wasn't done talking, and that he wouldn't leave until I said he was going to talk to our parents, because he was fed up with my disgusting behavior. He acted like a total child, and I pointed it out. That's when things started to get ugly. Honestly, at that point, we really went back to our old ways. We were fighting like teenagers, calling each other mean names, being horrible about everything. That's when my sister-in-law decided to intervene. Let me be clear, she and I aren't close friends. And to be honest, I don't really know what kind of person she is because I haven't interacted with her much. But anyway, she got up, grabbed her husband, and started dating him. Although he was quite against leaving and wanted to stay and argue with me, he ultimately couldn't fight her and left, but only after cursing me. Anyway, I was just happy she was leaving. I didn't care that she was cursing me or anything, but I decided at that moment that I was done with all this. After this, I'm not going to let anyone else in the family bother me about this. I've worked very hard to get where I am today, and I deserve some peace and quiet. Update 3. In the 4 days since my last update, I've been looking for new apartments or houses to move to so I could have a new address that only a few trusted people would know about. That way, my parents wouldn't be able to find out. To be honest, it was a big decision, but I thought I had to do it. I was planning to just tell a few friends and be done with it. However, I've decided not to pursue it because I don't think my parents or anyone in the family will try to contact me again. At least not after what happened today. As I mentioned last time, the last time I interacted with my family was with my brother, who came over and ended up fighting with me. It was all very immature and ugly. Then, 2 days later, this idiot decided to post about our fight on social media. I don't know why he did it, but fortunately, this time it wasn't just our family members who saw it. Her school friends saw her too. And these people know me. They know how I've been treated. I think pretty much everyone in my life knows how difficult it's been for me. And they called him out on his behavior. They told him that my decision was completely fair, and that it was my choice whether I wanted to talk to my parents or not, and if I didn't, then they had to respect that. They couldn't pretend I was the bad guy for wanting to stay away from people who disrespected me my entire life. Of course, he couldn't stand for that. So he ended up deleting the post shortly after. But I got what I wanted because a lot of people have been sending me support and telling me that I'm very strong for handling all of this on my own, and not having to stoop to posting to seek sympathy like he has. So that's part of the reason why I don't think they're going to contact me again. The other part is that my parents emailed me this morning, saying they were really bummed out by all the crap my brother had said the other day. I didn't even bother reading the whole email. I simply responded, saying I didn't want to talk to them. I called them pathetic and told them that, after the way they treated me my entire life, they had no right to expect any kind of forgiveness from me. I also told them I didn't want anything to do with them, and that they needed to understand. I warned them that if they tried to contact me again, I would ruin their lives by writing a book or whatever telling my side of the story and ruin their entire reputations, because I'm not going to tolerate this nonsense anymore. I also told them that if they really wanted to play that game and try to gain sympathy from other people, they would regret it a lot, because I have a much broader reach than they do. I can post about this very easily too, but then they'd have to answer to a lot more people, and I might even end up ruining their reputation if I spoke out. So they'd better be careful now. I told them this was my final warning, and so I ended the email. They responded half an hour later, saying they understood and would never bother me again. They also apologized for bothering me so far, and said they thought I'd appreciate their attempt at reconciliation, but clearly, it was too much for them. Now, I didn't bother responding to that because this conversation was over, as was any relationship I had with them, which had already ended 12 years ago anyway, so it didn't matter. I could be wrong, but I feel positive that this ended their contact once and for all. And I'm happy about that. I'm done. I have nothing to do with these people anymore. I thought this was going to hurt, or at least feel bad, but it doesn't. I just feel even more relieved than I did 12 years ago, and I'm so glad I decided to handle all of this in a more dignified manner than they did. They ruined their own reputations and any chance they had of reconciling with me. I just hope they can live with that. Update 4. I've been staying away from Reddit for a couple of years now, because I was living my life while watching my family's life crumble in the background. Well, it wasn't a total implosion, but it was still big enough to warrant an update. My brother stopped bothering me too, I guess because my parents told him to. And as for the rest of the family, I haven't heard from them either. Everything has been too quiet, which was more than ideal. I told myself, time to get back to my life as it was before, the way I liked it. But maybe 3 weeks or a month after the last time I updated, everything exploded. Not only did my brother's wife file for divorce, but she also publicly accused him of domestic violence. I now believe that on the day of her visit, she knew very well what my brother was capable of, and that's why she restrained him and spoke to him slowly. She knew what he could do to me or her if he went into crazy mode, as she called it in her post. In the post, denouncing my brother, there were photo evidence of things he had done to her, as well as accounts of all the things he had done to her during their marriage. There was a lot of fuss because she also mentioned the company she worked for. It went nuclear in the blink of an eye. My brother's wife's parents jumped right in and attacked her friends, my parents, and it all got pretty ugly in just a few days. So much so that my parents had to fire my brother from the company and issue a statement saying they didn't accept that type of employee, even if they were part of the family. They condemned such acts, and it was deeply painful to know that someone in the family was capable of such a thing. Still, people didn't believe it and have been attacking all of the company's online channels. Luckily, they don't have a huge online presence. They're more traditional, but still. I've seen them close comments or stop posting altogether to minimize risks. My brother is divorced, and among other consequences of all this, he's had to move out of my parents' house. I know my parents didn't want to be in the position of people thinking they were protecting a batterer. My brother hasn't said much either, not even trying to clear his name or justify himself. He's opted not to wait for everything to blow over. I don't know the details of his personal life, but from what I saw in some recent posts that were later deleted, there are still people who remember that the company is run by batterers. Update 5. My parents are in the process of selling the company before it's too late. I can't speak without knowing the numbers, but I haven't heard from that site in years. However, I do know that my parents have put it up for sale before the bad publicity affects them further. They want to get the most out of it before it's too late. And without my brother to inherit and run it, they believe it's the best decision at this point. From the outside, it may seem like a good thing. They're getting a lot of money for it, and it won't change much in their lives. But my father, and to a large extent my mother, love that company even more than they love my brother. He's a third child to them. And if they could have gone to school games, taken him out for ice cream, or anything else a parent would do with a human, they would have done it before they did with us. That's the love they had for her. I'm glad I don't have that last name, because now I'd be dragged down by them too. If I hadn't changed it years ago, I don't know what would have happened. It's not like the people who attack my parents' company can explain to them that you're estranged from that company. With a different last name, it's much easier. And when we talk about attacks, we're talking about physical attacks too, with graffiti on the company's windows and things like that. Perhaps everything has been made worse because my parents' company sells a feminine product, which seems to generate more outrage. That's all I can report so far. Edit. My parents' company is already sold. That's all I know. There's nothing more I have to share, because this is what I've publicly disclosed. But since it's a private company, the values haven't been revealed, only that it has been sold.